started my research activity in Catania during my master thesis, but actually the main activity on MOCVD, it started in USA at Northwestern University under the supervision of Professor Sanjay Mathur. It is a prehistoric date, if you can see. I think most of you or all of you were not even born at the time, because it's 1989. And I spent there 15 months, 9 as a fellowship from University of Catania, and for 6 months I was hired from the Northwestern University working on this topic. After I came back to Italy, I went back to Italy, and I did my PhD at the University of Catania under the supervision of Professor Fragalà. The topic at the time was ITC superconductors. They were discovered in 1986. That's why I started with ITC superconductor in the US. And so I did my PhD on ITC superconductors of Thallium-based systems. I was a postdoc for a long time after my PhD. So from 1994, I got my first permanent position in 2001 as a researcher. The researcher at the time was a permanent position. Researcher is not a permanent position in Italy now anymore. I will tell you a little bit about this in a few slides. And then I got an associate professor position in 2005 and full professor in 2006. And I will also tell you a little bit on the career steps, how you go from one position to another. Before switching to academia, just a few words, because I would not say a lot on CNR. So the Consiglio Nazionale delle Ricerche is the corresponding of CNRS in France. And you have actually 3 positions, that is the researcher, first researcher, and the director of research. They correspond like to researcher, associate professor, and full professor in academia. But the salary are a little bit higher than in academia. They are not the same salary as you were saying in France. Strange, but it's like this. And so in this case, you have to pass an examination. So you apply for a position. In the case of researcher, you have a written examination and then an oral examination. Of course, first of all, the committee will check and see and evaluate all your titles. So number of publication, either considering the IF of the journals and citations and the age index of the researcher or candidate for a researcher position. The first researcher, of course, the titles must be more important. And it has also to show some, activity in raising funding, fundraising, and this is even more important for the position of director of research. For the second position, you have an oral examination only. For the third one, no examination at all, only titles. In the last, so to have an idea of how many positions do we have. A few months ago, I was in a committee. We had about 130 applications for one position, and so it's not very easy. And it's also in certain, as Zosrin was saying, and as everybody said, you need to have support. So also in this case, there is a lab. You need to be supported by somebody, even if you are the best researcher. In Italy, you need to have some kind of place where people want you to be there. The academy. So in Italy, it's more similar to France, and for bureaucracy, it's maybe similar to Germany. But I have to say, it works not so well as in Germany. I have to admit. So even if it's recorded, I don't care. So the career in Italy, of course, the first step is PhD. And PhD, we do not have many positions actually in Italy, usually. So, for example, this year in our PhD materials chemistry and nanotechnology, we have 6 positions paid. So it's for all the, actually there are 2 departments mainly involved in this program, so it's not a big number. And after PhD, then you have a postdoc position. Usually we call it assegno di ricerca in Italy. And then you can apply for the first entry position that is not a permanent position. This is a researcher, and you have 2 kinds of researcher. This classification comes from 2010, the legge Gelmini, and is 2 kinds of positions. So researcher A type researcher and B type researcher. The A type researcher is a 3 years plus renewable for 2 further years. Instead, the researcher B is 3 years and usually comes after the A. This B is more important because it opens the door to an associate position. So if, of course, always then you have to show your activity during these 3 years or 5 years before and so on. Then you have to pass an examination and so on. It is not, let's say, open path. You have to apply for habilitation, as we will see, to associate position and full professor position that are the other 2 levels. These are permanent positions, associate and full professor. So to go from B to associate professor, you need to have the habilitation. And also for, all the researchers or other people outside from the academia that want to apply for associate professor, they need to have the habilitation first. This is given at the national level, so there is a national committee, and a lot of is the first very important step to get this habilitation is the number of publications, the number of citation, and the H index of the candidate. This both for associate professor and full professor, for different times and of course different different values. Higher for full professor and lower for associate professor. So for associate professor is evaluated the last 5 years of production in terms of publication, and 10 years for the number of citation and H index. 10 years for publication and 15 years for citation and H index for full professor. So what you have to do, let's see if I forgot something, the habilitation I said. Okay, when you get the habilitation, what to do? A university, let's say Catania University, open a position, then you have the habilitation and you can apply for this position. And then it depends, you will have many candidates, and it depends how the curricula are and who fits better the position. And the validity of the habilitation is limited. Usually it's for years. Sometimes then we have a little bit, we are constrained, but not so much. So they've been a little bit extended for a couple of years, but usually it's for years. If you are not able to get a position within the 4 years, you have to apply again for a new habilitation. What has to do a researcher, and what are the tasks for associate professor and full professor? So the researcher mainly is going to have a teaching activity and research activity. The researcher that had a permanent position, they didn't must do teaching. It was like on a volunteer basis. Now the type A and type B, they both have to do teaching for about 250 hours. And then of course research. The associate and full professors, they do research, teaching, and administrative. And don't ask me which is the percentage of each. I don't want to answer to this. And of course also supervise students like bachelor, master's, PhD students. The salaries. There is no way to contract salaries. Salaries, as Sanjay was saying, 20% more than Switzerland. In Switzerland, more than in Germany. think that with respect to Italian, the Switzerland one would be 100% or even more. I don't know. If you want, we can discuss about it. Just a few. Okay, this one. I found this on internet and I liked it. This slide. So, as you can see, so you can do whatever you want, but it's always like not whatever you want for different reasons, going up and up and up. This is what you think when you are a graduate student, but then when you start the PhD and so on, you have to do what your professor wants. So listen, please. And then you have to do, you are an assistant professor, then you have a tenure committee to comply to what you want to the tenure committee and so on. So it's just for luck. So that's all. If you have any questions?